If your salary went up this year, here is a simple question. Why does your bank account still feel empty? You make more than you did last year. You are not unemployed. You are not irresponsible. You pay your bills on time. Yet somehow every month ends the same way. The balance is close to zero. Savings barely move. And there is a quiet financial stress you cannot fully explain. Rent went up a little. Groceries feel more expensive even though you buy the same things. You order food more often because you are tired. You upgraded a few things because you are working now and it feels reasonable. None of this feels reckless. In fact, it feels normal, almost expected. And that is exactly the problem. Because if earning more automatically meant living better, then why do so many students and young professionals feel stuck the moment they start making money? Why does doing everything right still feel financially fragile? This is not about laziness. It is not about bad math. And it is not about personal failure. Something structural is happening quietly and gradually, and almost everyone walks into it without realizing. So here is the real question we are going to unpack. Why does higher income so often fail to create financial freedom? Who actually benefits from that pattern? And where exactly do young people stand inside this system right now? Most young people follow a very similar path. You go to school because that is what you are told creates options. You graduate believing that once you get a job, things will finally stabilize. A steady income, a sense of control, a future that feels predictable. And for a moment it works. You get hired. You start earning. You feel like you have stepped into adulthood. But this personal story is happening inside a much bigger backdrop. Over the last decade, the cost of housing has risen faster than entry-level wages. Education has become more expensive, while job security has become more fragile. Inflation quietly reshapes everyday prices, while policies meant to stimulate growth often benefit asset owners more than wage earners. None of this shows up clearly on your first paycheck. Yet it shapes how far that paycheck can actually go. This is the environment young people are entering right now. High expectations, high effort, but shrinking room to breathe financially. Your daily choices do not exist in isolation. They are constantly pushed and pulled by a system that rewards spending speed more than long-term stability. And this raises an important question. Where did this pattern begin? Why does it hit students and new workers the hardest? And how did a generation working harder than ever end up feeling financially behind? Hi, my name is Alex. I am here to walk with you deeper into this issue. And if you find this video useful, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe so I can keep making more content like this for you. The first trap almost everyone falls into is not debt and not bad decisions, but something far more subtle and socially accepted, and that is lifestyle creep. It begins the moment income becomes predictable. When you are a student, your spending is constrained by force. You know you cannot afford certain things, so you do not even consider them. But once a paycheck arrives every month, the boundaries quietly move. Not because you suddenly become careless, but because the environment around you tells you that upgrading is normal. Your coworkers live closer to work, so you start thinking about a better apartment. Your friends order food regularly, so cooking feels like a downgrade. Social media shows people your age, traveling, furnishing apartments, and enjoying small comforts, and none of it looks excessive. It looks like adulthood. The psychology behind this trap is powerful. Humans anchor their sense of safety to what feels normal around them. When everyone around you spends more, your brain interprets that level of spending as safe and reasonable. There is also the illusion of security. A stable job creates the feeling that income will always be there, so future trade-offs feel distant and abstract. This leads to a repeating behavior loop. Income goes up slightly, spending adjusts quietly, and savings stay flat. Over the past decade, this pattern has intensified. Entry-level wages have increased, but not at the same pace as rent, healthcare, transportation, and everyday services. Between the early 2010 seconds and now, housing costs in many cities rose far faster than starting salaries, while subscription-based spending turned small, recurring costs into permanent drains. The trap does not trigger alarms because nothing dramatic happens. There is no single bad purchase, just a gradual shift. Consider a simple real story. A new graduate lands their first full-time job. The salary feels like a breakthrough. They move out, get a slightly nicer place, upgrade their phone, start using convenience services because time now feels scarce. At the end of the year, they are surprised to see almost no savings despite earning more than ever. No mistakes were made. Every choice made sense in isolation. Now compare this to previous generations or even other countries. Many older workers entered housing markets earlier when prices were lower relative to income. In some countries, strong social housing or lower healthcare costs reduce the pressure on monthly budgets. Young workers today face higher fixed costs before they even get a chance to build momentum. Lifestyle creep is not about weakness. It is a predictable response to social pressure, economic structure, and human psychology working together. And once you are inside it, the trap reinforces itself because pulling back feels like failure, even when moving forward was never actually happening. To understand why personal money feels tighter even when you do everything right, you have to zoom out and look at how the system itself is operating. One of the biggest forces shaping everyday finances today is the long period of low interest rates, followed by a sudden sharp reversal. For years after the global financial crisis, money was cheap. Borrowing was encouraged. Businesses could raise capital easily. Consumers were pushed towards spending because saving earned almost nothing. In simple terms, the system rewarded movement. Spend now, worry later. Then inflation accelerated and central banks stepped in. Interest rates rose quickly. This shift changed everything, but not evenly. Think of it like this. When rates are low, asset prices like housing, stocks, and investments rise fast. People who already own assets benefit first. When rates rise, the cost of living reacts faster than wages do. Rent adjusts, loan payments increase, credit becomes more expensive, but salaries move slowly. This creates a squeeze that shows up in daily life, not in headlines. Before this shift, a young worker could stretch their income with cheap credit and stable costs. After the shift, that same income faces higher fixed expenses before any discretionary choice is made. You see this clearly in housing. In many cities, home prices and rents climbed during the low-rate era. When rates rose, prices did not fall enough to reset affordability. Instead, monthly payments stayed high. Young people entering the market faced the worst of both worlds, high prices and expensive borrowing. Businesses adapted too. Companies built models around subscriptions, convenience fees, and recurring charges because consumers were trained to accept small monthly costs. Individually, each charge feels harmless. System-wide, they lock people into constant outflow. Now compare this with places that handle the system differently. Some countries maintain stronger public housing, healthcare, or education support. In those environments, rising rates still hurt, but basic costs absorb less of a paycheck. In others, where individuals carry more of the burden, every macro shift hits personal finances directly. The key point is this: your personal budget does not operate in a vacuum. It sits inside a system designed to keep money circulating quickly and predictably. When conditions change, the system adjusts faster than individuals can. Young workers are hit hardest because they enter at the wrong moment in the cycle. They start careers when costs are already high and buffers are already thin. This is why the problem feels personal but behaves systemic. And until you see how the system moves, you end up blaming yourself for outcomes that were shaped long before you made your first financial decision. The price young people are paying today rarely shows up as a clear bill or a single mistake. It shows up quietly in how they feel and how their lives unfold over time. One of the first costs is mental pressure. Constant low-level anxiety about money becomes normal. Even when income is stable, there is a feeling that one unexpected expense could knock everything off balance. This sense of financial insecurity drains attention and energy. It affects sleep decisions, confidence, and long-term thinking. Another invisible cost is the loss of safety. Many young workers technically earn enough but lack real buffers. Emergency savings are thin. Credit cards quietly replace savings. According to recent surveys, a large share of young adults would struggle to cover a few months of expenses without income. That is not because they spend wildly, but because fixed costs eat up income before choice even enters the picture. Then there is life delay. People postpone moving out marriage, children starting businesses or changing careers, not because they lack ambition, but because the margin for error is too small. Every decision feels risky when there is no cushion. Over time, this creates a narrow life path where stability is prioritized over growth. A common real story looks like this. A young professional knows they should save more, but chooses to keep spending patterns unchanged because cutting back feels like failure. They tell themselves they will fix it later when income increases again. Later never really comes. Years pass. Income rises slowly, costs rise quietly, the habit hardens. Compare this with someone who understands the system early. Not smarter or luckier, just more aware. They fix savings first, even when it feels uncomfortable. They delay upgrades slightly. The difference in the early years feels small, but over a decade it compounds into flexibility, options, and peace of mind. The long-term gap between those with basic financial structure and those without is not about wealth, it is about freedom. One group can absorb shocks, take risks, and choose change. The other remains technically successful, but structurally fragile. This is the hidden price of the system operating as it does. Young people pay not just with money, but with time, stress, and delayed lives. And because the cost is gradual and normalized, many do not realize what they are giving up until the gap becomes very hard to close. One of the most common illusions people carry is the belief that earning more money automatically solves financial stress. It sounds logical. If income rises, problems should disappear. But in practice, higher income often just raises the stakes. Fixed costs expand, expectations rise, and the margin for error stays thin. This illusion exists because media stories celebrate income milestones without showing balance sheets. We are taught to chase salaries, not structure. Another powerful illusion is that owning a home equals safety. For previous generations, this was often true. Prices were lower relative to income and mortgages were manageable. Today, housing in many countries has shifted from shelter to financial leverage. Ownership now comes with large fixed payments, maintenance risk, and exposure to interest rate changes. People feel secure because they own something, yet remain one job loss away from distress. A third illusion is that a stable job means you are set. In reality, job stability has changed. Careers are more fragile. Companies restructure faster. Industries shift quickly. A paycheck feels steady until it suddenly stops. These beliefs persist because they worked in the past. They are reinforced by cultural stories passed down from parents, teachers, and institutions. They are also convenient for systems that benefit from constant participation. When people believe income alone is the solution, they focus less on protection buffers and flexibility. Data tells a different story. Many households with above-average income still live paycheck to paycheck. Homeownership rates do not correlate cleanly with financial security when debt levels are high. Job tenure has shortened while income volatility has increased. History offers similar lessons. In several countries, rapid growth periods created confidence that stability was guaranteed. When cycles turned, those without buffers suffered most regardless of income level. Places that built strong savings habits, social protections, or flexible cost structures weathered shocks better. The pattern is clear. Income is a tool, not a shield. Assets can become liabilities. Stability without resilience is fragile. The danger of these illusions is not that they are foolish. It is that they delay necessary adjustments. People keep running faster on the same track, believing the finish line is just ahead. By the time reality breaks through, the cost of change is much higher. Seeing through these illusions is uncomfortable, but necessary because the system no longer rewards belief. It rewards preparation. When you step back and look at the whole picture, the story comes full circle. It starts with a young person doing what they were told would work. Study hard, get a job, earn more money, live a little better. Nothing reckless, nothing extreme, just small upgrades that feel earned and reasonable. Slowly income rises, but so do expectations and fixed costs. The system around them encourages spending speed over stability while telling them that higher income will eventually fix everything. Lifestyle creep quietly takes hold not as a failure, but as a default setting. At the same time, macro forces reshape the ground beneath their feet. Housing costs rise faster than wages. Credit becomes easier, then suddenly tighter. Jobs feel stable until they are not. None of this announces itself clearly. It simply compresses margin year after year. The invisible cost shows up as constant pressure, delayed decisions, and a sense that something is off even when life looks fine on paper. What matters here is not a checklist or a tactic, but a shift in how you see your own behavior inside the system. The real lesson is noticing how easily normal choices become traps when they are repeated without structure. It is recognizing that feeling busy, productive, and employed is not the same as being secure. It is understanding that the system rewards those who build buffers quietly long before they are needed. And it is being honest about where you stand right now without judgment or panic. Not ahead, not behind, just located. Once you can see the trap, it loses some of its power. Once you understand the mechanism, it stops feeling personal. And once you know your position, you gain the ability to pause instead of react. The most important change does not happen in your bank account first. It happens in awareness, in realizing that comfort can be more dangerous than struggle if it keeps you from asking better questions. So the question is not whether you are earning enough or doing enough. The question is whether the way you are living today is quietly buying freedom or quietly postponing it. And that is not something anyone else can answer for you. If you see yourself somewhere in this story, then this moment matters, because clarity tends to arrive before change, not after. If you found this content helpful and valuable, please like and subscribe to my channel so I can keep making more videos like this. And what do you think about this topic? Leave your thoughts in the comments.